Hello, everyone. Just last year, when I sat down with the Lumio team, they told me that they were going to end India's slow TV epidemic, build an entertainment brand from scratch. All of this while taking on companies that have been doing this for decades, and all of this while manufacturing in India. At that time, I'd be honest, it sounded a little too ambitious. But now that the launch year is officially done, I am sitting with Raghu and Sudeep once again to find out what year one really looked like, what worked, what did not, and what Lumio is betting on next. But before we move into the numbers, before we talk about numbers, let me just start by asking you, what is that something you watch as part of your comfort viewing, and whenever you get some time, to watch TV?
You go start.
Well, for me, it's usually sports or catching up on my favorite sports in football. But yeah, if I'm with my family, I do tend to indulge in like half an hour of a TV show. We don't do more than that because it's just already too late. So yeah.
What is something that you recently watched?
I mean, at home, I think I do catch up, binge on some of the Apple TV shows. I think I really like those shows.
Oh, yes,
I think they are fantastic.
The production quality is like next
Everything.
level.
I think
Yes.
the stories, the emotions that they bring to the table, and it's very differentiated stories. Very similar
That's
to
correct.
how
They
we
are
building
going
a
very big on sci-fi. I really love the sci-fi shows that they
genre.
have.
Yeah.
Raghu?
No, usually we watch on Fridays, Saturdays. And that's like prime. That's viewing for me and my wife. We sit down together. I love watching a lot of Sudeep Sharma stuff. So I think Kora was the latest one that came out.
Yes.
So whatever I think
Season
him
2,
and
I
his-
think season 2
season
came
two came out. Yeah. So whatever him and his season team of writers come out with is something that we sort of love catching up on. I mean, whether it's Patal Lok or whether it's Kora and other things that he's sort of
Yeah.
working on overall.
Great. So, it's been roughly a year since Lumio launched, right? And the last time we spoke, Raghu, you said that, you had just crossed $1 million in sale, and you called it a small number, right? Where does that number stand right now? Has that trajectory surprised you in any way?
Yeah, you're right. I think we caught up. I think about a couple of months after our launch when we were getting into our second category, which is the projectors category with the Lumio Arc. I think those numbers have held up well. We're not sort of talking about what is the revenue number as such, but happy to share that in our first year of operations, we've crossed about 20,000 plus customers across the board. That number by itself might seem a little too tiny, but given India is such a large country, but bear the fact that we are playing in a category like TV, which has a lot of competition, a lot of legacy players. Within that, we're again not playing in the mass segments, we're playing in the premium end
Right.
of the segments. And we're also putting together products that are actually at the top end of the bigger screen sizes, whether it's a mini LED or a QLED. So, all in all, playing in the absolute premium end of the segment, and despite that fact, getting a lot of customers to trust us and actually buy our product, I think it's been a great and a humbling journey. We sort of like where we are today overall. Of course, these 20,000 customers, a lot of them are not from just one part of the country. We've had, I think, customers coming in from about 6,000 plus pin codes across the entire country. So that gives us confidence that, the hypothesis that we came into the market with, that, we'll try to end the slow TV epidemic. I think slowly but surely that's finding resonance across customers, across cities. And we just hope that, that continues to become, carry more momentum as we go into the next year.
That's absolutely interesting, because just in just 1 year, the number of products that have gone on sale from Lumio, and also the acceptance towards a new brand is sort of very relishing in that way. Between you, Sudeep, Kailash, you guys come from Xiaomi, Flipkart. You understand the playbook of selling TVs and home entertainment systems by extension. So building a brand is like a different game altogether, right? From scratch in India in 2026 right now. What was the single hardest thing about year one that nobody told you about?
I think you should take that.
No, I think everything is hard when you're starting from a scratch. Because we all come from large companies where there's already a lot of momentum that's built. You end up doing stuff and you end up seeing results that are 2x, 5x, 10x. Some of that muscle memory still exists. And getting rid of that when you start afresh is the challenge, right? We're all used to launching something and we know that boom, I mean, we put X amount of effort, this will lead to like a 10x or a 100x kind of a number. With I think a new brand, it unfortunately can't go to 10x or 100x with the effort that you put in. You have to keep doing the right things consistently over a period of time before you can start seeing that kind of relationship between an output and an input. I think in year one, that relationship between input and output is much, much smaller. The multiplier that you get on output is much, much harder to achieve. So I think that's the biggest learning or the hard learning. But we know for a fact that we take sort of pride from the inputs that we put in. Are those inputs being appreciated by customers? Today it's been appreciated by a set of customers, but we believe that if they like it and if they spread the word of mouth, that compounding happens and then the momentum builds up overall. But I think the year one, the hardest bit is actually just working hard and seeing that, it is impactful, but maybe it could have been more impactful. I think mainly because of our past
experience.
Yeah.
Anything that you would like to share on that?
No, I mean, he kind of summed it well. I think doing everything from scratch is very different from, let's say, our past experience. Here you literally have to stitch together piece by piece or bolt by bolt, if I have to say, and much more, in-depth experience about what also can go wrong. When you work in a very larger organization, sometimes you are not privy to certain things. But here, when we are putting it with a small group of people, the responsibility is very, very high. So, of course, that comes with its own reward. So we have been seeing the rewards as people loving all our products. So that gives us satisfaction. Okay, whatever the input that we did, people are really liking and trusting the new brand and the new products that we have been putting.
And to keep going.
Yes.
Nice. So, earlier in our interactions, you mentioned that 70% of your customers are from Amazon Prime members and 40% of your website visitors are iOS users. So, that is a very specific consumer profile, right? Has that data changed your product roadmap in a way, or, has that itself transitioned wherein new customers, new user base have found you?
No, actually, we've sort of dug deeper into that. I mean, of course, that was more data that we are getting from external sources.
Right.
But we had to figure out, who really are our customers, what, convinced them to choose us, and what convinced them to buy these products. So we had to get a better understanding. So we've been running consistent surveys to all our customers, especially people who spent more than 6 to 9 months with our TV. So we just ran a survey. The results came out a few weeks back, and I think the biggest question was who really is our customer, right? One thing that came out very clearly is that the customer of ours is really a much younger demographic than the typical demographic for both TVs and for projectors. I think in TV specifically, we are attracting a lot of audiences between the age group of 25 to 40. Whereas I think, in general, I mean, there are people also buy it after the age group of 40. So younger audiences, well-educated audiences, people who are enthusiastic about technology and what technology how it can help improve their lives. Those are the kind of customers who are, choosing to buy us. The other thing that came out and that stood out very strongly was that, our hypothesis was that We wanted to end the slow TV epidemic. We felt that people have been struggling with slow, laggy, clunky interfaces for a long period of time, and we felt that that's consistent across a lot of brands. So can we get a lot of those customers to come back and purchase our thing? That was the hypothesis that we went into the market. But when we looked at the data that we got from our own surveys, where we asked the customers the question, "Ki, what was your previous TV?" The numbers that came out were very encouraging. I think 50% of the customers who picked up our TVs, they had LG, Sony, and Samsung as their previous TV.
Okay.
And if you add Xiaomi to the mix, that is about 65%. So 65% of our customers have come from legit legacy or tier one brands out there.
Yes.
It gives us confidence that we've actually landed on the right insight. We are sort of helping people actually find a solution to what is really irksome or frustrating for them, and hence they've chosen us overall.
Great. Anything you'd
No,
like to share?
that's again some of these. So the promise also that we made of speed.
Yeah.
A lot of this, I think one of the big question was, will it stay fast? I think you would have asked that us.
Yes.
In our earlier interaction.
We did.
We actually have been talking to a lot of these customers. Almost everybody still says, okay, this is still fast, this is still good. I think that is reassuring even future customers, and these are the same customers who go and write reviews, right? Okay, this is still fast. Almost more than 50% of those people come and write, okay, your TV is actually fast. And yeah, we've spoken to some of these people in the last few weeks to understand our TVs actually hold the promise, not just on the day one, but almost at the end of 365 days.
Right. I think you are one of the brands who launched the TVs with Android 11, and now
Yes.
you're the first one to roll out Android 14 across your
Completely.
lineup. I think that says a lot about like where the where the priority lies. Not just hardware but software too. We'll talk about that
Sure.
for sure. But let's talk about the Luminati community.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, okay.
The Luminati community meetups, the urban ladder retail partnerships. Those are sort of unconventional for a TV brand. But I would like to ask you: has that really moved a needle? Or are they building like more long-term, trust for the brand?
I think for us, community was always like a core pillar that we wanted to start with. In fact, we have more than like 700 people on our WhatsApp groups. There are various groups from tech to entertainment to movies and games. These are again very very critical about everything that we do. Again, they are some of those guys. Of course, they get to see our products first. In fact, we'll be showcasing across India in select cities. Select few, again, like more than 100 200 people sign up. We only invite very select few to give a sneak peek of what the product is before even the product is launched into the market. So they are again very different, again like you said, very unique.
Yeah.
Similar to Urban Ladder, I don't think a tech brand has collaborated with a space like an Urban Ladder. The idea was very simple. When we started, we were only online, but there were always people who just want to touch and see it, right? Not necessarily to go and buy, but the purchase can happen online, but at least the touch and feel and experience can happen. In fact, if you walk into any of these urban ladders, so we have 2 in Delhi, 2 in like Bangalore, so each city has 2, and you can see both Vision 7 and the Vision 9. All have been logged in with Netflix, YouTube Premium. Nobody's going to ask you a question. They're going to hand over the remote. There is a couch. That for us was very logical because that's the closest to a living room, not a wall of TVs. So that is actually giving a very true and close sort of like experience that you might get at your home. So for us, again, it starts from the customer, what the customer wants and how the customer should experience a product. So that's, while it sounds unique, I think it just makes it's obvious.
Yeah,
it should have been done
like first contact.
Yeah. First contact.
I think coming back to the community point, it's also important that for a brand like ours, which is fairly new and it's a very considered purchase. People end up spending a lot of time researching, talking to people that they know before they actually make a purchase for
Correct.
a TV. So it made sense for us to speak to actually showcase the products to enthusiasts and get them to actually understand that the product is actually living up to the the promise that it's making overall. And without that, I think it would have been much harder to reach where we are overall. So it's an integral part, but we also believe that community is a long-term play in some sense, because he spoke about 700 plus people who are there in the groups. We engage with them very frequently just to understand what's going right with our products, what more do they want on the products, and especially when you're sort of software is a focus, not just updates etc., but we're building out our own TLDR app, and we want to keep adding more and more things over there. So somewhere I think before you put it out into the whole wide world, getting a closed group to test it and give you feedback is a lot more valuable to the whole process of improvement or development of software, not just the hardware.
Absolutely. I think one of the positive aspects that I can think of about that particular community thing that you spoke about is I think a lot of these people on those groups, they wanted more options where your products were available, and that is where it led to like a this thing you launched on your website, wherein you can go to the Lumio website and purchase products, right?
Correct.
Was it?
Yeah, I mean
that led to
they did want us to launch our products. Of course, for us it is step by step. In fact, we started with Amazon, but now we are on Flipkart. We are on our own Lumio store. We started with projector, but we are also doing a pilot of TVs in Bangalore.
Any thoughts around like going retail soon, like have like Lumio experience outlets?
Too soon, but I mean, see, I think eventually we will have to get it there, because ultimately this is a very experience-led product. In fact, both the products are very experience-led products, and we're also claiming something that's very different from what a lot of other customers claim. So people have to get a proof of that pudding. So somewhere down the line, I think experience stores will actually make sense for us as well.
Wonderful. So as we have been talking now of ending the slow TV epidemic, right? A year in, has the industry caught up? Are there brands who are shipping their TVs with 3 GB, 4 GB of RAM modules, or this is really like a differentiator by Lumio?
So I think the way the way we think. I mean, the short answer is industry has not caught up. The long answer is this is still a niche. Not too many people are invested in giving like a great experience, or actually catering to customers who feel that this is a problem, because I think everyone thinks that it's just too small a market for you to go after overall. But we believe, I mean, we are a bunch of tech nerds. We get our kicks out of figuring out what are the pain points and how do we solve that, and how do we build a business around that entire thing. So for us, I mean, we are very happy with the fact that the product has landed well, customers are liking it, and we've actually genuinely solved a problem. But not, I think all brands think like that. So they're still shipping out the products as they were the previous year. In fact, we again, just before the launch this year, we've commissioned a study where our new product has been compared with about 150 TVs in the market.
Close to 100
TVs in the market. We still continue to be more than 2 times faster across a bunch of user interactions that they end up doing on a TV overall.
But that is a real pain point. I mean, it's just that people have gotten used to waiting.
It became a norm.
Waiting a bit more.
It became a norm.
Yeah.
We have gone and broken that norm. We say, no, that is not how your TV should behave. When your smartphone, your laptops are already shipping with such great user experience,
powerful
processors, and all the hardware and the software, we really thought we should be able to make a similar experience in the TV side, and we are happy how it has landed.
So, Sudeep, when we reviewed the Vision 9, the performance claims by the brand, it really held up in most of the TVs that we have tested below 1 lakh rupees, right? But performance also degrades over time. When you launched, it was on Android 11. And with the Android 14 updates, how are your early units sort of behaving? Are there any, performance degradation, any honest feedback that you have received you would like to share?
Yeah, so so in Android 11, we did get some of the like user complaint. For example, some sound system is not working. These are again real. I'm just being very open, right? With Android 14, more than just the numbers, a lot of these bug fixes were also incorporated. I remember, I think you had pointed out the Black Crush. In fact, you were one of the very first to just read that and just go and like fix it. In fact, we were ready with the fix. It's just that we couldn't manufacture it with that fix, so the hot fix went a little later. So similarly, the Android 14 came with a lot of minor improvement. In fact, Android 14, the boot up when you have to set up, for example, a new customer is setting up the TV for the first time, that process of the first screen to your home page is almost faster by 50%. So your setup experience for a new customer is even improved further than what we had done, thanks to the Google TV's optimization. So the number of steps got reduced significantly. Talking about long-term customers who have been using the TV, we mentioned this earlier. They have come back in the recent times, like after using 6 months, 9 months. We interviewed them. They all are super happy with how the TV has held up, because that's literally every question by a customer. While you guys do a great job at review, what about 9 months later?
Yeah.
And there is a string of reviews that also does this as a theme, right? So I think that is very important. You will soon see some of these snippets of testimonials coming through on our social handles.
That's great. That's wonderful. I think that's a win in your case.
Yeah, it is. It is a big.
Yeah, it's just that it's a little harder to. We couldn't have claimed it, say, last year. I mean, even though we knew that it'll stand the test of time.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of people asked us, and we said let it run its course, and then we'll go back and take feedback. So in fact, that's something that we've done. We've actually got testimonials from customers who've used the products for 6 to 9 months to talk about how the experience continues to be even later. I remember, I think last year same time when we launched the product, said I think all TVs are fast when you just unbox
Open
it and
the
start
TV.
use it.
Of course.
But will it sort of stay fast over a longer period of time? I think now happy to mention that it is actually holding true to what we had sort of promised at that point in time.
And these are real customers, not actors, just to specify this.
That's great. That's great. But I'd like to argue that most TV buyers don't care about the Android version number, right? How do you communicate the value of software updates to the consumer who just wants a good picture?
Interesting. I think part of the problem statement we were solving through software was discovery of content. That's where our core strength comes as a team. In fact, we have an engineering team led by a head of engineering. We have been building a lot of stuff behind the scenes on the TLDR. Talking about software, again, I think to give a great software experience, the hardware has to be there. And on top of that, you have to keep building much more stuff. Again, today, if there are, let's say, 10 things, tomorrow there'll be, maybe 50 things. Your hardware needs to, that's why we have put in... Keep up. So that's why we put in the great hardware. But on top of that, we are also incorporating a lot of new features in this TLDR second generation. But we have, in fact, even more stuff with the new era of AI, the agentic AI. That's where a lot of things are going to happen. So, yeah, we're going to hear a lot about us, from us, about these new software experiences, which we wanted to give a glimpse on how the future could look like with the agentic AIs on TLDR, which will actually help solve a real pain point of what to watch.
Great. We'll get to the TLDR and version 2.0, but a big gap that some of us see in the current lineup is 60 hertz refresh rate. Where competitors like TCL, Hisense are offering like 120 hertz, 144 hertz panel in this segment. So for a brand that prides itself on performance, is it not a contradiction that you're shipping it with a 60 hertz panel? I
think last year when we built the product, at least in our line of when we define a product, it solves for a particular, or it exists for a particular reason. There can be XYZ reasons, and that product meant to do certain things. I think we have achieved it. But you're right. Performance especially gamers who really care about
Exactly, yes.
high competitive gaming, be it console gaming or a PC gaming, where it's even more necessary. We are in fact very happy to share that our upcoming latest generation of Lumio Vision 9 series will be coming with native 4K 144 hertz
Wonderful.
for console and 240 hertz in 1080p for PC gamers. So we are one of the brands who really care about all the feedback. It really means to us, and we have taken all the feedback and we have incorporated that in our upcoming generation of LumiVision series.
That's great. That's great. You first heard it here.
You first heard it here.
So, the Vision 9's 24 watt speakers are well tuned, they are refined, but they are not particularly loud, and the bass is not particularly thumpy. Those were our words in our review, right? Meanwhile, competitors are shipping with 40 watt and even like 70 watt speaker
Sure.
setups. You have mentioned that Lumio is focusing on flagship audio, right? Going forward, do you think where does that audio capability really fall short?
I think when we met, we explained just the wattage number doesn't create
Yes.
impact, right?
Yes.
Sound is all about physics and it's all about space. Unfortunately, all of other brands, they do tend to focus on certain numbers which is visible. What is not visible is what's inside the TV. That's where we have taken, put in a lot of effort in creating or engineering boxes of, speaker boxes, which is way more volume.
Okay.
Right. Last year we had about like 380 milliliters of just sheer cavity. But on top of that, each of those speaker boxes, we also have dedicated tweeters and full range drivers, which most brands don't even like put even until like 80,000, 90,000. While that was last year, again, we keep hearing feedback and you're hearing it first here. We are incorporating something in the latest generation to up the level of audio. So last year it was DGS audio. This year we are announcing DGS audio 2.2, which means exactly what it's supposed to. 2 channels of audio and 2 subwoofers.
That's great.
So dual subwoofers,
Yeah.
dual full range drivers and dual tweeters, which makes it an hexa driver system on the new Lumio Vision 9 series.
Wow.
So again, while it's going to be 50 watts and there'll be Atmos and all of that stuff, they're again tuned. I want to really focus tuned by humans, where you care about the end user's experience, and these are not tested by some white noises or pink noises and just frequency curves taken in anechoic chambers. These are real tests in real world with tuning for content that we actually watch, not some demo contents. So yeah, that's what we are going to be doing for the new series, and
Great.
yeah, we can't wait for you guys to test it out.
Great. So a lot of us, would say that home audio space or like getting into like a speaker or a home theater territory is sort of like a natural extension for your brand.
Yeah.
Any thoughts about that? Any hints that you can drop?
Well, we do things little differentiated. That's why our second product was a projector in the home audio space. We've been doing very well in that space. Yes, home audio remains a area of interest for all of us here at Lumio, but we just don't want to build a product that doesn't solve a pain point first, and also is not differentiated in terms of what it offers.
Mm-hmm.
So till we find the right balance of both, I think we won't be ready. So yes, we are interested, but yeah, we need to have the right product and the right time.
Great. So one of the pain points that sort of we realized was that AirPlay support was missing from the
Yes,
TVs.
yes.
Right. So any update on that? Is it coming or?
So we work very closely. As you know, Google TV is the software. In
Yes.
fact, the software comes directly
Yes,
from
yes,
Google TV. We
from-
don't even we work very closely with them to optimize the performance and other boot up speeds and stuff like that. But Google is working with to getting this enabled at an OS level.
OS.
We don't have any timeline as such from them, but yeah, they have promised us that they will be bringing at some point in future, which we are also we have not been given a particular date. But yeah, but as you know, there are already third-party apps
that
on Play Store. There's a bunch of, and with the advent of AI, I'm 100% sure that number of options is just going to increase by leaps and bounds.
Great. So let's finally talk about TLDR, the next evolution, TLDR 2.0, as you've said. So it's one, like when we reviewed the TV, right? So we thought it was one of the most original sort of software additions that we have seen in a long time, especially on TVs, like where the innovation quotient is sort of low always,
yeah,
right?
always, yeah.
A year later, what is the adoption of TLDR? How has it evolved? And what does the usage data tell you?
Sure.
Right. So I think thank you for calling it out as one of the more original ways of sort of putting something out there. So that was the intent. We again I think went back from customer backwards. We felt that customers end up spending a lot of time figuring out what to watch, where to watch, and then we zeroed in on sports and music as a space, which I think there's a lot of that content that ends up getting watched on TVs, but finding stuff relevant to that is actually harder, whether it's a live match or highlights or contextual information like tournament point standing, etc. So we said why don't we start with that. So today we said we've got more than 20,000 customers who are using our products. I think out of that roughly slightly more than 50% of them are using the TLDR app on a monthly basis, which I think is a great number, because TV is not something. I mean, some people, for example, still connect the TV to a DTH connection. For them,
Cable
I mean,
TV,
it's probably
yes,
not
yes,
useful.
yes.
But I think amongst the OTT audiences, this app is definitely finding more and more traction, and they're using it more consistently. In fact, as we see the month-on-month trend, we see a lot more users who've been using it in the past who keep coming back and start using that. But of course, we're only covering two use cases right now, which is sports and music. I think the biggest use case, the biggest elephant in the room is actually movies and shows, because that's where people end up spending an inordinate amount of time figuring out what is what. So that's something that we are changing in V2, which will go out along with the new launches later this month.
Right.
So that will have our own take on what kind of movies and shows do you want to watch and how do you land there very quickly. So happy to share that tomorrow, I think, when we meet at the launch.
Of course. So that of course is like a very big pain point, for everybody who like watches TV, and just to figure out what to watch is that is something that content discovery is an area where a lot of things and a lot of innovation can happen. You have mentioned AI integration as a focus area. The TV industry at large is full of AI buzzwords. Every be it AI refresh rate or frame rate interpolation or all of those things, it amounts to a very little in actual use case, right? What does AI mean for Lumio, and what TLDR can do with AI that it cannot do today?
So maybe before Sudeep takes it, I'll just take a quick stab at it. I think you see, you rightly hit the nail on the head. AI just gets slapped onto products left, right, and center across everything. It could be AI PQ, AI SR, AI bunch of things overall. While it does sort of improve stuff. So you'll never see a Lumio calling out AI across all of that. But where do we see AI actually helping add value is on the TLDR side of things, where we believe that a lot of the work that customers were doing in terms of figuring out what to watch can actually be done by an agent instead. And we're sort of working towards creating an agentic enabler where you give in a quick sort of thought, and the agent then goes and figures out everything and puts it straight onto the TV overall, as opposed to you looking for it on a phone and then still figuring out going and searching for it on a TV. So that's how we are thinking about it. There's a bunch of different use cases that we've considered that have come from what we believe are typical user journeys, and how do we use agentic AI to actually bridge that onto the TV interface. So I think just one good example is I think we believe a lot of inspiration for what to watch comes from social media, right? But social media and your TV are two disconnected platforms.
Yes.
You go through social media, you figure out, then you come on to TV, you search for it, and then you find it, and then you start playing it. How do we merge that? So we've used our version of agentic AI to see how we can enable that. So we have a demo and a POC that's already up and running. So we'll showcase that very, very soon. So hopefully you'll also get a glimpse of what all is possible on a TV using AI.
Yeah. Again, these are real use case and not lip servicing. Agentic AI is the buzz on the internet and the AI everywhere, right? Yeah. We've actually created a agent, let's call it TLDR agent, which will help you provide you the right content rather, and all of this can happen with just texting.
Okay.
And it's as simple as, for example, you can choose be it a Telegram, be it an Instagram, be it a WhatsApp, for example, which is the most used service. All you have to say, show me Guy Ritchie's movies. Imagine it's not just searches by rows or display of content. The whole UI changes based on what you're searching. Let's say you, like Raghu mentioned, you discovered some, reels on Instagram. You just send it to this recommendations, right? You just send it to our agent. Our agent will figure out within few seconds, find all the titles, rank it by order of, let's say, most watched, stuff like that, and showcase it on your
TV. And again, you click on it, and then it'll launch it on the app that's available in.
Wonderful. Can't wait to try it out.
And you did bring out the point of we don't have AirPlay.
Yes.
We're also solving it through this. You just have to send a picture to our agent, and agent will figure out putting it on the TV in no time. There is, I would say, better experience.
Lots of problems that the agent is solving. Right?
Yes. I mean, we are. I think we are very focused on at least trying to solve for what to watch kind of a problem, and how do we, because it's usually a multi-device challenge, people wrangling with multiple things just to get to that. So how do we ease that out is the big sort of goal for us using AI.
That's the second most, I think, thought of question every day. The first one being what to eat.
Yes, and then what to watch while eating the food.
So yeah, last time we spoke, you were honest about why there is not a 65-inch variant of your TV. You said Amazon data showed that for new TV brands, TVs above a certain price point are hard to sell initially. A year in, consumer trust is presumably stronger now. Has that calculus changed?
Yeah, of course. You want to take a step? No, so again, when you start your journey, you are being cautious and take step by step, as we have always been. We didn't go and launch 10 different products. We were very calculative about is it solving a certain pain point. So we only launched a premium QLED and a flagship QD mini LED. The size choices were, again, we knew that, okay, for a new brand, to warrant a certain price, above a certain price point, is going to be slightly difficult. But we were very surprised, to be very frank, of how people perceived us. I'll give one example. Even in the first month, people were buying a Lumio Vision 9 55-inch, which is our most expensive product, from tier 3 towns, without seeing, without touching a new brand. That put us a lot of faith. So yeah, we are happy to share we will be taking our next step and introducing 65-inch in Lumio Vision 9 in 2026.
That's great. That's great to hear. I think we are now moving towards like bigger screen size TV, be it like 65, 75-inch TVs. I mean, brands are here who are offering 100-inch TV panels, but that's like crazy pricing over there. But I think 65, 75 is now the area which is like an acceptable size for a living room, so to speak, especially like in tier 3 or so cities where there is ample space for you to put that TV, right? So that is something Congratulations for that. I mean,
Thank you.
venturing out into
Yeah,
the new-
step by steps.
Yes.
We do it step by step.
So, Raghu, you said early on that Lumio Vision is home entertainment, not just televisions. You've launched projectors. You have rolled out the new Android 14 update, and there is the TLDR app, right? What is the next big product milestone for Lumio?
I think the biggest one is 65-inch.
Okay.
I think we are pushing the boundary, increasing our threshold in terms of where, how much can customers buy from a new brand like ours. So I think that's the next big product threshold. But like Sudeep mentioned, we are evaluating, a few other categories. We are figuring out, we want to at least, land one other category this year. But yeah, too early to sort of talk about it. But hopefully, we're solving the right problem, bringing the right product in, and then we'll see where it goes from there.
Okay. Uh, okay. So the 55-inch Vision 9, it proved that you could build a competitive mini LED TV option in the market, right? But scaling to a larger panel sort of brings in more local dimming zones, different backlight uniformity, different audio expectations for living rooms, right? How are you approaching those challenges with the new launch?
I think, like I mentioned, we did hear very specific set of requests or rather feedback, right? Okay, great product. Everybody absolutely loves it. We have so many testimonials on my personal DMs, people having Sony OLED TVs or LG OLED TVs rather, trying our mini LED and going crazy about how great the experience has been, especially purely speaking from a display perspective. But as you said, a product is a combination of multiple things. It's about, sometimes we get caught up in sheer numbers and forgetting about what the end user experience should be like. It should be seamless, it should be frictionless, and it should be, for like our motto, it should spark some joy when you watch or use it, right? Especially in the case of TV, when you come back home, you don't want to wait. You don't want to like have a color which is not showcasing, let's say, the enough amount when you're watching HDR. Again, I think we are like tech nerds, right? We care about Rec 2020.
Rec 2020.
Everybody, most people don't even share those numbers.
Yes.
We are very sure that this is the next standard. That's the fair, for a simple logical reason. Content are being produced in HDR.
In HDR.
You have to talk colors in the same language or the same, at least the apparatus, right? So we take pride in putting the most amount of colors also. So for us, combination of a lot of things, and the sound we have already touched upon. So in the next series or the next updated version, we have incorporated all of this feedback across display, across sound, and across the software experience. On the display side, I think one of the feedback was, okay, IPS is great, viewing angle is great, but that also brings another point of, okay, the blacks maybe are not that great. While mini LED can turn off the light, LEDs and give you a great local dimming experience, but still some people did give that feedback. So in an upcoming Lumio Vision 9 2026 edition, we are actually combining the best of both worlds. So IPS has great viewing angle, but bad black. I mean, relatively bad blacks.
Relatively, yes.
VA has deep blacks, but relatively bad viewing angle.
Viewing angles, yes.
Off
yes,
axis.
yes.
What if we merge both and give you the best of both worlds? So hence in the new series, we are introducing something we are calling the enhanced VA panel.
Okay.
So it has the properties of
Both the
IPS and the VA, the best of both worlds without any compromise, which will give you the deepest black, but almost no color shift or no brightness shift at off axis, with almost zero nits, thanks to the local dimming that we can do on the mini LED. So almost 0.00 nits that you can go hit, almost OLED like. So yeah, great experience in our upcoming television. I touched upon the sound, TGS 2.2, along with the dope display engine. It is nothing but all the properties of the display. Hardware has to be tuned. Just the core hardware of the panel doesn't give you a great experience. You really have to do the tuning, which we call it the dope display 2, which is combining every aspect and tuning it to the type of content that you need to watch. And this takes, by the way, like almost like 4 to 5 months for us to fine tune all this hardware
Exactly to
to
the point. Yes.
what the end customer should, and it's a long process, and it's done by humans by looking at and putting a very very high standard for us. So yeah, just sheer amount of hardware is not the end goal for us. It's the
of course.
end user experience is what we really care about. So yeah, we continue and down the path.
Great. You once mentioned that the first batch of Lumio TVs has tech for connected spaces that you cannot even talk about at that point. A year later, can you elaborate on that, or what is the connected home vision for Lumio?
I think for Lumio, the home as we create products in home entertainment, the first part was how do we give a great experience in the TV. I think projector was something that most people did not expect us. We wanted to bring literally a cinematic experience, right? And I know personally everybody at some point wanted a great home theater experience.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, the options out there were not that great. So we spoke to a lot of customers and we found the right balance of the product. And more than just the product, the category itself had needed, I think, a shake-up, which we came and we done. And actually, we are very happy to share we are already India's #1 Google TV projector brand from a new brand. It's even more humbling and it's really great. I mean, we are all happy about how the feedback has been. So yeah, the ecosystem will keep growing. Like Raghu mentioned, we are evaluating few other categories, but we definitely want to add one more category. So every product that we will be doing will be a connected experience. Of course, in terms of, if I have to purely talk about IoT and other stuff, again, those are some of the stuff.
So maybe I can sort of step in here. I think we do believe that TVs will evolve into being the center of a smart home. Right now, I think the smart home story and the smart TV story were kind of independent of each other, but we do believe that it will converge. I think somewhere in the next couple of years, you will see that a lot of smart home protocols will possibly be working using the TV as a hub by itself. So some of that is in the works. So we do believe that once we start building out, once people start accepting us as a bona fide legitimate brand in the TV space, we would want to evaluate expanding into a few other categories that start working very closely or nicely with the TV that you have in the home.
Great. Before my final question, do you want to talk about how the sort of service post-purchase service is being offered by Lumio, and how have you expanded on that?
Right. So I think, in fact, I mean that's one thing that we didn't really, frankly, have the luxury of trying to do this at a later point in time. We had to get it right? Because customers are very unforgiving. I mean,
Yes.
If you sell it to them, they expect you to get the best possible service. I mean, it doesn't matter whether you're a small company, big company. The fact that the customer has trusted his money to buy your product, he means that he expects 100% great service. So, and that's what we were ready for right from the get-go. I mean, 6 months before we actually got into the market, we'd actually started work on putting out a service network. So we'd put together a service network about 300 plus 330 odd service centers across the entire country, covering pretty much the entire length and breadth of the country overall. So we obviously continue to monitor our service levels, our SLAs that we are able to offer to the customers, and we keep doing micro tweaks to ensure that that experience continues to go up. So for example, one of the goals that we had set out for ourselves was how quickly can we get the installation done after the TV is delivered. And our goal was, can we get to a 70 to 80% number for installations happening within 24 hours of the TV getting delivered.
Delivery, yeah.
So when we started in May, I think that number was in 55%. But I think over the course of from June to like September, we actually scaled that up. And we actually got closer to about 70-75% of installations happening within 24 hours. But then I think, during the festive period, I think the sheer amount of
Yeah,
volumes that came in, I think made it harder for us to meet that number. So we degraded a little in the festive period, and I think I think a lot of our customers were very unhappy with the kind of installation service that we were able to give at that point in time. But since then, we figured out what went wrong over there. We've again improved our processes. We've scaled that back up from like November to now in Feb. Again, it's gone back to about a 70-75%. Of course, now we're also wizened by our experience during the festive period. So hopefully going into this year's festive periods, we are a lot better prepared, and we should be able to make good on the promises that we've given.
Wonderful, wonderful. So, final question, Raghu. Last year you said, why should great TVs only come from outside India? A year later, do you feel you have answered that question?
I think our hope is that we've answered that question emphatically. I think customers. I think the feedback that we get from the customers is most paramount, and we went with a very differentiated proposition, very different hypothesis. We're happy that people are liking the product that they've used overall. So hopefully, we continue in the same vein, and we're able to answer this question in a lot more emphatic way as we grow over the next few years.
Great. So just a couple of rapid fire questions. I'll ask you the question. You both have to answer one by one, maybe. Okay. OLED or mini LED?
Mini LED.
Mini LED because of better brightness.
Okay. The last tech product you bought with your own money?
Oh, I just got an M5 Pro MacBook to play with AI stuff. Yeah.
I don't recall.
He builds them. He doesn't buy them.
That's nice. So, what's the most binge-worthy show that you watched recently?
Actually, not recently. No, I don't remember.
True Detective season 1.
Oh, that's
I'm
classic.
like about 12 years late to that, but someone told me and I've like watched it. I'm like, oh wow.
Oh, you watched it for the first time?
For the first time,
I
not the
thought,
second time. Yeah.
That's nice. I think they sort of season 2 is also great, but after that I stopped.
क्या देखा भूल ही गया मैं. Okay. ठीक है.
So 3 words that describe Lumio right now.
It's not 3 words, it's more words. Tech that sparks joy.
Yeah.
We're trying to build products that spark joy.
Correct.
Great.
Same answer.
Great. What's one leadership advice that you find yourself giving too often?
I think focus, or don't try to do many things. Do few things. Do it very well. I think that's the thing that we all end up discussing, and I keep giving that advice to myself as well very often, because you do a few things, you do it really well.
Okay.
I keep telling myself be humble and
That's
do justice to whatever is at your capability that you can, and always obviously aim for the stars, but be very, very real to what you should be
Honest.
doing and honest to yourself.
So, one brand outside of consumer electronics that you really admire?
I like Peak Design products. I really use them. I think they are a very true core product first, company. I think out of the tech world, if I have to, I really just it's a great the product kind of like sparks joy every time you use it, even though it's not a tech product. So yeah, kind of similar.
For me, it's Muji. I think Muji stationery, simple, elegant, very well designed. Just you hold it and you feel happy about that. So yeah, can you build products that evoke that kind of joy? Is again, I think one of the things that we keep sort of thinking about whenever we are discussing newer products.
Great. Are you a hoarder?
No, I'm not a hoarder.
Okay. So, what's one trend in the TV industry that makes you roll your eyes?
Roll your eyes. Okay. I think you will see that happening a lot this year. You will see. Mini LED by itself is a great tech. That's why we said mini LED versus an OLED. But the mini LED will also get dumbed down. You will have really watered down versions of mini LED that go into the market that claim themselves to be mini LED. But unfortunately, we believe that the experience might actually be not better than a QLED or even worse than a QLED overall. So yeah, that's a trend that you will see sort of panning out later this year, and you don't have a choice but to roll your eyes over it. But we'll stick to what we believe. I mean, there has to be a difference, like a tangible, meaningful difference between a QLED and a mini LED, and we're not going to sort of go down that path of bringing down a watered down version of mini LEDs.
Great, good ambition over there.
Yeah.
For you?
That's what we are seeing in the industry, which is bound to happen. It's not necessarily a bad thing, but it's not giving you the real experience. So there will be like multi-level of mini LEDs in terms
So
of experience.
in a way, it's a simple thing. I mean, when QLED came in, also the same thing happened.
Yeah.
The actual QLED was supposed to help you with like way better colors overall, but very quickly you had a lot of again watered down versions of QLED where people bought those TVs and then they would say it's no different than my 4K TV. What's the big deal about it? Because there's actually no change. So how do we keep that clarity and not mislead customers is the way we think about it.
Great. Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for
can't
having us
wait
on.
to try out the new vision
Yes.
that is coming out soon. And thank you guys. Thank you for watching. And yeah.